Did everybody say hello? What was that again?
Hello and welcome to our final turkey chat. We're so glad that you're here. My name is Brittany Sweetie. I'm the communications manager with the Livestock Conservancy. And here with me today is Jeanette Behringer, our senior program manager. We're hoping that we'll still have a special guest today. If not, we do have a video that we're going to play real quick. I'll go ahead and plug in some headphones, but I just realized this computer that I have might not have a plug for one of those.
What a crazy day.
Who's going to hear me talking live to you, our wonderful turkey chatters. It's Tuesday. It's going to be one of those days. Jeanette, how's your day going?
A little crazy. Mad dash to the office because the electric company showed up to change out poles on my property, and a very thoughtful Brittany Sweeney came running to my rescue to get me off the property because my car couldn't get past the electric trucks. But everything's good. We're both in the office and ready to do a chat, but it's been a wacky day.
I feel like the week before a holiday is always a little different for everybody.
Oh, absolutely.
Before we get started, I just want to remind everyone to please give us a comment or a share or, a question. We're definitely going to be taking questions today. And a big shout out to all of our wonderful members who make it possible for us to do things like turkey chats. Today, we're going to do things a little bit differently. We're going to play a quick video by P. Allen Smith, and he's going to give us an overview of the turkeys on his farm. So it's kind of a little farm tour, and then some great recipe things for how to cook your heritage turkey. Yeah, did you want to say anything about P. Allen before we do the video?
Yeah, Alan has been a really good friend of the Conservancy and supportive of our programming and been very generous with sharing stuff. And if you're not familiar with him, he has a lot of shows over the years on PBS, and he's a gardening guru. But more importantly for me, he's a chicken nut and a turkey nut, and I've gotten to know him quite well through our common interests with poultry. And he has this wonderful place called Moss Mountain in Arkansas. And he has a project he calls the Heritage Poultry Conservancy that concentrates on heritage poultry breeds at Moss Mountain. And he raises some really nice varieties of turkey and chickens and ducks and geese, and it's a lovely place up there. And so he's kind of done a little farm tour for us, and we asked him if he could share some cooking tips on turkeys, because that's one of the number one questions we get with heritage turkeys. And he's kind of the go-to, and has written articles on the topic, and he's just a heck of a nice guy. So I'm excited he did this little farm tour for us.
Awesome. All right, I'm going to share my screen and get this video up because it's great.
Farm, home of the I'm P. Allen Smith, and this is Moss Mountain Farm, home of the Heritage Poultry Conservancy. November is Turkey Month. It's Turkey Month for, well, a lot of reasons, but principally Thanksgiving. Don't let them hear me say that. I want to talk to you just a little bit about some of our heritage breeds, what we're keeping here at Moss Mountain Farm. Now, across the board, we have about close to 50 breeds of heritage poultry, but among the turkeys, we have 7 different colors of turkeys. The one directly behind me is the classic bronze, and the reason they're called this is because of their beautiful bronze-like feathering. They look the closest to the wild turkey. Our goal here is to try to perpetuate these heritage breeds. You saw the bronze, but right up here is one called a chocolate, which was popular in the southern states in the 19th century. There are very few of them around these days, and so what we try to do is keep this place, this farm, as a genetic repository for not only some of these breeds or colors of turkeys, but other breeds of rare poultry. In this breeding pen, we have another old southern favorite called the Bourbon Red from Bourbon County, Kentucky. It's sort of a chestnut-colored turkey with white wing feathers and tail feathers. Can make a very striking bird. Now these toms are called Spanish blacks, and you can see they are just as black as coal. This is one of the oldest colors, and it's one that we started with here at Moss Mountain Farm. We've got a genetic mutation for a recessive gene where they'll throw slate, which is a beautiful, blue slate color. That's the slate color turkey. We've got a beautiful hen here on the farm that we'll be using for breeding. Now, right now, all the birds or all the colors are running together because we're not breeding. We'll be selecting the breeders very soon, and, well, the ones that don't make the cut, you know what happens. Now, one other color I want to show you over here, actually two of them. It's the Narragansett and the Royal Palm. You can see them right over here in this corner. Come on over. And then also in this pen, you'll see these slate gray ones, like the tom there at the entrance. That one's called a Narragansett, named after the Narragansett Native American tribe, or Narragansett Bay. And I think they're really quite striking. Now, a lot of people ask me, how do I prepare a heritage turkey? You see, these have all been out here grazing in these grow-out pens since they were about this tall. It's lovely to have them on grass so they can eat bugs and run around and have all the grass they want to eat, as well as a well-balanced diet of feed. But when I cook one of these birds, you'll find that they can be sometimes on the tough side if you don't cook them properly. And what I've found is brining them over the course of 12 hours makes a lot of difference. And I like to brine them with plenty of salt, of course, in water with lemon juice. And then I rub the bird down with olive oil and put it in one of those baking bags. And this works beautifully. Sometimes I'll even shove up under the skin rosemary or sage, some woody herb under it, which gives it a really delectable flavor. If you're interested in the conservation of heritage breeds, such as these turkeys and others, I encourage you to join forces with the Livestock Conservancy, the Rare Breeds Trust in the United Kingdom, as well as the Heritage Poultry Conservancy from right here at Moss Mountain Farm. I hope you have a wonderful fall and a happy Thanksgiving.
I just want to thank P. Allen and his team for putting that together for Turkey Chats. That was such a great video.
Yeah, I wish people could see the full breadth of what he does over there. There's some really beautiful animals there, and the important thing that he's doing is trying to keep them to breed standard. And I think we talked about this in previous shows that one of the biggest challenges is to keep size on their turkeys, and it's not the easiest thing to do, especially with some of their color varieties. They can get small really quickly, so he puts a lot of effort into selecting for size. And the other really interesting thing he's been working on with a number of folks, and with our first guest that we had, Zane Graham, on, we talked a bit about the chocolate turkey. And because it's an old Southern variety, Alan's been really passionate about trying to bring this variety back. And has done some great work with chocolate turkeys in particular. And it was actually his efforts that helped make the huge turkey show possible at the Ohio National last year. And he offered prizes and ribbons and really got people excited about showing turkeys. And so we have to give hats off for him to do that. And he's sure proud of his turkeys. The photo that we shared when we were promoting this, the poor guy, he was waiting to get to the show table with this enormous black turkey in his arms, which after a couple minutes, they get heavier and heavier and heavier. And Alan, I want to say he'd been holding on to that bird for a good 20 minutes. But he was such a great sport, and you could tell he's starting to get tired with that bird, but he still managed to pose and let me take that great picture of him with that big black tom. And, that's just the way he is. He's a super nice guy and loves to share. So he does offer classes out there periodically for folks that are interested in learning more about his poultry and what he's doing. But do we have any questions out there that I might be able to answer?
We do. We have a couple coming in. Let's see. Mm-hmm. The first one is from Shelly. Thanks for tuning in today, Shelly. She wants to know how long-term breeders breed their turkeys. Is it flock breeding, pair breeding, trio breeding?
I think it varies breed to breed. Typically, myself as a poultry breeder, I have different bloodlines within my flocks, and I think a lot of turkey breeders might do that too. In that you've got specific bloodlines that you want to maintain, and sometimes you have to juggle 2 or 3 at the same time. If you're breeding only pairs or trios, I think one tom and one hen, the hen gets pretty beat up. I think one tom with at least 3 hens is probably the most reasonable. That way, no one hen is getting beat up. I wouldn't tend to do fewer than that unless you have absolutely no option or you're looking to mate a very specific pair for a very specific reason. And if you're just getting started in breeding turkeys, you want to start with as much diversity as possible. So you want to try and get unrelated birds so that, you can carry on for a while without bringing in outside blood. A lot of folks think that, I can just get another tom or I can get another rooster. And if you get the wrong one, it could actually undo years of work. So when you do bring new genetics into your flock, you really want to make sure you know what that breeder is selecting for and that it's similar to what you're selecting for. With turkeys in particular, are they selecting for size or are they just selecting for type and feather color? Because that can make a big difference for your breeding plans.
Jeanette, did you have any resources that were really helpful for people that are just starting out?
Yeah, we have 2 publications on our website. We've got the, if you're just learning to raise turkeys, then the Raising Turkeys on Pasture book that's available free for download, or you could buy a hard copy. And then if you're wanting to take the step into breeding, we have a turkey breeder's manual that's also free for download on our website. You can also buy a hard copy if that's what you prefer. But that delves in deeper and helps you to understand what's going on underneath the feathers, because you really want to get your hands on that bird and evaluate before you make the decision if this is going to be a breeding bird or not for you.
Great, thank you. Shelly just wrote back and said, thank you. That's great information. Thanks, Shelly. All right, other questions. Let's see. Allison wants to know, what is the best time of year to set turkey eggs or buy poults to raise for the holiday market?
Yeah, that's when you really have to start thinking about it now, and now might even be too late for you, depending on what turkeys you're looking for. A lot of the hatcheries started taking orders for turkey poults back in late summer, early fall, and so you're not necessarily guaranteed. Sorry, I have a yappy poodle under my feet here. Shush.
Ozzy also wanted to answer the question.
Yeah. Um, so if it's a rare or really popular variety, you may be out of luck by now. If you're lucky, make some phone calls and try and arrange stuff now, whether it's poults or eggs. As far as getting the animals ready for the holidays, do your math to get a young tom to market weight for a holiday. They need at least 28 weeks to grow out. So, you're going to want to be able to get that amount of time in. Typically, people start raising poults like around January, February. So you've got plenty of time to raise them out and get them up to market weight. So it's a lot of planning, and so now is the time. Yeah. Another question I get a lot is mixing turkeys with chickens, and we've talked about it a couple of times. There is a microorganism that's harbored by these worms, and it causes a condition called blackhead. And chickens can live with it okay, but it's really deadly to turkeys. And so a lot of people wonder, can I keep chickens and turkeys? And it's a mixed answer, because there are some parts of the country that blackhead's not an issue, and then there are other parts where it very much is. And I'd call your local extension agent and see if they can give you some insight into blackhead being an issue. If it is, you might choose to put your poults on medicated feed, which is commonly available in feed stores, and then slowly wean them off that as their immune systems build. The first 8 weeks, turkey poults are really, really delicate. And so you want to make sure that you keep them up off the ground, and that when you do start introducing them, you do it slowly.
That's a great point. We've got lots of questions about that before.
Yeah.
Anna has a question. Thanks for tuning in today, Anna. Which breed would you recommend most for the best market Thanksgiving turkey?
Well, they're all yummy, that's for sure. To make, part of the reason white turkeys are the color that commercial industry uses for holiday birds is because they're easier to clean. And if you've forgotten or missed a few pin feathers, it's hard to tell because they're white colored. So if you're looking to market birds, the ones that are going to be easier to market because of that are going to be the white varieties like White Holland, Beltsville Small White, Midget White. And then the lighter colored birds like Bourbon Red, their underfeathers are light colored, so they clean very easily. The Jersey buffs will clean really easily. And some of them that are more challenging, and it's only because you really have to educate your customers, is like the black Spanish turkey, because they'll leave ink spots. And if you don't tell your customers that there's nothing wrong with this, it's just an ink spot, it's edible, it's not a bad thing. It's just they have dark feathers, and dark feathers leave ink spots on occasion. So you'll get these little black spots not all over the carcass, but here and there from pin feathers. And so you have to educate your customers about that. And I've eaten black turkeys, and they're fabulous. So I got past the ink spots pretty easily. And so, keep that in mind if you're looking to market to people, especially customers that haven't had much experience with heritage birds. So they might not be quick to jump on a bird with dark feathers.
That's a great question. Thank you, Anna. That's a great point, Jeanette. Jeanette, I know I love to eat turkey. I know that you do too. Are there any recipes or cooking recommendations that you give people?
Yeah, usually my go-to is actually Frank Reese has some really great resources. If you go to the Good Shepherd Ranch website, they will have cooking tips for you. You can go also to some of the older cooking books that were used back in the day when heritage turkeys were what you cooked. Typically, Slow and Low works well. I know a lot of people, like Alan had suggested, getting those cooking bags so it traps in the moisture. I agree with him. I always brine my turkeys, and overnight. You don't want to do it too long, because if you brine them too long, then you'll actually dry out the bird. And so, it's really a bit of an art. You just have to pay attention. Heritage birds typically do not come with the pop-up thermometer, so you want to watch it. I do have my favorite device in the kitchen right now is this remote probe thermometer. And so it's a metal probe that you put into the carcass, and then the line that leads out, and you can leave it in the oven, and then you've got a little box that you have your target temperature on it, and it'll sound the alarm when you hit your target temperature. And it really, really works well, especially if you're unsure about how to cook your bird. And it depends on how done you want your bird too. Some people like it a little more done. Some people like a little less. The second big key to cooking heritage turkey: let them rest. You need to let the bird rest for at least a half hour. Some people even do an hour. That's going to help the bird to be more juicy and going to be much more pleasant eating experience. And so I know it comes out of the oven and you just like, but let it rest.
It smells so good. Your whole house smells like turkey, and you're like, I can't wait to eat this, but you have to wait.
Oh, I know.
You have to get those juices reabsorbed back in, and
I know. I had cats that would climb my legs whenever I cooked turkey. They would just go nuts, and I'd have to lock them in a room so that they wouldn't get at the turkey when it was resting, and no time out of the year would they ever come near the kitchen counter. But for some reason, turkeys just set them crazy, and I'd have to lock them up, really.
I have a baby gate that I have to put up at my house.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
That's awesome.
Let's see. I think we've got a couple more questions that have come in. Candace says that, thanks for tuning in today, Candace. Her husband just got a small group of white midget turkey hens, and then an unrelated tom and hen to add to the flock, 1 tom and 10 hens. And they are new to raising turkeys and excited to see if they can hatch some poults in the spring. What sort of treats are best for turkeys?
Oh, well, you don't want anything too fatty. And we say this for chickens too. A lot of the, treats that are out there aren't necessarily the best things to be feeding them. Certainly leftovers from your cooking. If you've got leftover veggies, and I don't like to feed poultry to poultry, so I wouldn't do that. But one thing I know my chickens love is lamb. When I do a leg of lamb and there's leftovers on that, the thing is you have to be really careful to not let it get rancid, so get it out of the pen, when it starts getting, warm and that. But usually it's like meat to piranhas, and they're just, but turkeys, I think they would appreciate, veggies from the garden, and they love bugs. The only bug a turkey doesn't eat is the one it can't catch. So if you've got like a compost pile that's got, worms and things like that in there, I'm sure they'd love to be poking around in that. And just go easy with the treats, especially with like cracked corn and stuff like that. You don't want them to get obese because fat turkeys won't breed properly. So be very careful. And I'd go the fruit and veggie route, no citrus. And there are a lot of lists out there on the do's and don'ts of fruit and veggies for poultry. So you might want to check into that. So, a lot of folks say don't do avocado, and there are a few other things. So, but everybody loves tomatoes, that's for sure. Blueberries, strawberries.
Yes, that's true. Great question, Candace. Thank you for that. Let's see. Gail says, can you point out the differences between the midget, Beltsville, and White Holland turkeys, their origins, and are they related in any way to each other?
That's a long question. We do have an article, and Brittany, I think you posted that the other week when we got this question. Long answer short, White Hollands, of course, are going to be different from the others in that they're ginormous. They're very large turkeys, and they were sports art of the bronze. And so they're very large and nowhere near as small as the others. And then if you compare the midget whites and the Beltsville whites, between the two, the biggest thing that I've seen is that the midget looks more like a commercial body compared to the Beltsville. And so they look like a commercial turkey in miniature, where the Beltsvilles are a little more svelte. And the article does a really good job explaining the differences in more detail. But that's the short answer, is that those are the basic differences between them.
That's a great question, Gail. Thanks for tuning in today. I will put the link to that article on this post later. That way it's available for you and for everybody else to check that out. Mm-hmm. Let's see. Everybody's got turkey on the mind today. Allison recommended, this is her recipe for heritage breed turkey. She likes to cook hers low and slow and to get a thermometer. I know when I got one, it was like life-changing. And she cooks hers at 300 to 325 covered with foil until the last 15 minutes with no brine. She has a great turkey. I know there's this debate going on. Is it like a dry brine or a wet brine? Do you have a preference?
I think to each his own. I like a wet brine. I have mine brining in the refrigerator overnight, and we mix in a bunch of things beyond just the salt, and do one thing my husband likes to do is an onion with cloves poked into it. And whole cloves, that goes in. We also put in some brown sugar and a few other things. And I can post that brine for you later. It's a brine that a friend of mine had shared with me a long time ago, and we've just been using it ever since.
That sounds delicious. I always dry brine mine because I don't have a pot big enough for my giant turkey.
Yeah, we just bit the bullet and finally invested in a big pot. And every time I see the prices, I'm like, surely a pot cannot be that expensive. But yes, it is.
Yes. Well, I don't see any more questions coming in. Is there anything else you think people should know about heritage turkeys or cooking heritage turkeys?
Just be patient and be observant of your bird. Don't walk away. And if you do, for just short periods of time. And that remote probe thermometer, you can get them for like $20 at Walmart or Target or something like that. They're really cheap now. And I like the ones that have the rubber tip that when you go to pull the probe out, so it's not super hot to the touch. And, make sure that you don't hit the bone with the probe, because that'll throw your temperature off. But it's just a wonderful tool for cooking, and not just for turkey, but all kinds of stuff. and you'll get addicted to it really, really quickly.
True.
Yeah, and so hopefully people will enjoy their turkeys. And remember, you don't have to be a breeder to be helping with conservation of turkeys. Providing a market and eating them is just as valuable a service as breeding them.
Absolutely. I think we've got a couple more questions come in if we've got time.
Sure.
Let's see. Thanks for tuning in today, Amy. She wants to know, how can I breed the bronze out of the tail feathers where they're supposed to be black in her Narragansetts? She's been told that it's from the mother's gene, and she's had a few offspring with proper tails, but she's not sure.
Oh my gosh. I don't think I can answer that one. Frank Reese, where are you when I need you? I see he's out there. If you send that question in an email, I will make sure it gets to somebody that can actually answer that. I don't know color genetics of turkeys well enough to give you an advice on that.
Way to go, Amy. You stumped us. Yes, please email that to us. You can send it to jberenger@livestockconservancy.org, or you can send it to myself, and we'll make sure that somebody who is an expert in color genetics will be able to answer that for you. And my email is bsweeney@livestockconservancy.org. Let's see. Brett wants to know, what is the best ratio of hen to tom for a breeding group? They have midget whites.
Well, I think at the very least 1 tom for 3 hens. I think 1 to 5 is even better. As I mentioned earlier, hens can get beat up. Toms do get big, and if you've got too few hens, they can really take a beating, even if they're being gentle. There are these devices called saddles that you can put on hens if you have just a few hens and their backs are starting to get roughed up. You can put a turkey saddle on, which it's like a little vest that their wings fit through, and they have this protection on their backs so that the tom's claws don't hurt them. If you have enough females, you probably shouldn't need that. But if you don't have a lot of females, that might be something to think about.
Thank you, Brett. That's a great question. Let's see. Frank Reese said the best turkey he ever had is a 4-year-old tom. The flavor is intense with lots of fat.
Oh, man, I can believe that. I find that with my roosters. My favorite chicken to eat now are my roosters. Sorry, guys, but they're amazing.
Thank you, Frank. That's so great to know. Let's see. April says she uses a trash bag to line a cleaned out trash can or laundry basket for a large pot to brine in. That's good to know, because I never have a pot that's big enough.
Yeah, well, I make sure it's a food grade liner. I wouldn't go using any old trash can liner, but like a food grade one, if you can find them. Usually they're clear plastic. Yeah.
Thank you, April. Anna wants to know, would you use the same feed for a conventional turkey and a heritage breed?
Ozzy says no. Typically, the heritage birds need a little more protein to grow properly. And commercial birds, feed gets expensive when you're working with higher proteins where a lot of the cost comes into feeding. And so with commercial birds, turkeys and chickens, they've been selected to grow on lower amounts of protein. And if you think about it, the heritage turkeys, they're meant to be grown outside on pasture, and they're getting all that extra protein from bugs and things that they're catching outside. So typically a heritage bird needs a bit higher protein.
Great question, Anna. Thank you. Kathy wants to know, is it better to raise Slate Blue from Poults or to buy adults from a breeding pair?
if you can afford it and you can find someone that's willing to raise them, I'd buy them as adults because that color variety is really challenging. And if you want breeding quality animals, you want those animals to, finish molting out and fill out so that you're sure that you've got good quality animals. If you've got Poults, I mean, you might get some beautiful ones, but if you're not that familiar with the breed and you're not, you don't have good advisors to help you pick which birds you're going to keep, that could be a problem. But if you're buying from an experienced breeder that knows what a good quality bird looks like, that, you've got a leg up from there.
Great question, Kathy. Thank you. Let's see. Becky wants to know if breeders of heritage turkeys actually let the turkeys nest and brood the poults. She says most people she knows gathers the eggs and incubate and then brood them artificially.
Oh, sure. There are folks that let their turkeys do that. Not a lot, but, if you're a small farm and you just want to raise a few, the challenge is making sure that hen decides to nest where you want her to. A lot of folks that let their birds nest out in pasture in the woods, typically they get nailed by predators, both the eggs and the hen. So you want to make sure if your hen's looking like she's going to go broody, that she's confined to an area where she can safely nest and she's not going to get threatened by predators.
Great question, Becky. Thank you for that. Well, I think that's all for now.
Okay.
We just wanted to go ahead.
I was going to say big thank you to P. Allen Smith for giving us that little farm tour. That was really nice. And I can't believe Turkey Month's almost over. It's been a fun month. And I hope folks have learned a thing or two about turkeys in the process. And next month, we're moving on to geese, one of my favorite species. And we've got some exciting things coming up on Goose Month, and hope you'll tune in with us then.
Absolutely, I can't wait for Goose Month. I'm going to learn so many things. Well, as we wrap up, I just want to say happy Thanksgiving to everyone. I hope you enjoy some wonderful heritage turkeys and a lovely time with your families. And keep tuning in every week at 2 for more species chats. Mm-hmm. We'll see you later. Have a good week. Have a good holiday.
Bye. Happy Thanksgiving.